Kulinanapono. Good morning, everyone. I'm Diana del Pilar, Chief of School Performance at Children At Risk. We are gathering ahead of Children at Risk's annual Virtual Education Summit and just days after the conclusion of the 89th Texas Legislative Session. Today, we'll be looking closely at a wave of new education policies that will influence everything from teacher preparation and certification, school funding, and academic recovery, as well as workforce preparation for our young graduates. I'm joined by a group of educational leaders and experts who are here to help unpack these changes and what they mean for students, educators, and our broader community here in Texas. Please join me in welcoming Jason Sabo, founder of Frontera Strategy, who will provide a high-level overview of policy wins in relation to education funding changes, teacher certifications, and workforce readiness. We also have Veronica Garcia, Chief Policy Officer for Good Reason Houston, who will focus on the impact that new schools and special program funding have on student outcomes, teacher recruitment and retention, and school district operations. Amanda Clare, Director for TNTP, will highlight the upcoming changes to teacher preparation, credentialing, and certification pathways across Texas. Dr. Adrian Bustillos, Chief Transformation Officer for Aldine ISD, will use his expertise to explore the changes we can expect in seeing career and technical education programs expanding, early college and dual credit pathways, and how they will prepare our students in 6th through 12th grade for tomorrow's workforce readiness. And Carol Ann Moore, Vice President of Research and Policy with Nyhouse Education Center, who will look at legislative wins as they relate to literacy and increase opportunities to re-engage our opportunity youth in pathways to education and the workplace. And to wrap it all up for us, Judith Cruz, Assistant Director for Texas Houston Region Ed Trust, will provide a commentary on education reform as it relates to college and career readiness and continued advocacy opportunities. Before I let our experts dive in, I want to emphasize one thing. Right now, we're standing at a crossroads for our Texas students, teachers, and schools. The most recent data available shows that still less than half of Texas ninth graders are meeting grade level expectations in Algebra I. That's a mirror reflection of performance in third grade mathematics based on our state assessment. And the situation is even more dire for students in low income backgrounds. Our math scores continue to lag, and over 42,000 uncertified teachers are in classrooms today. For those of us who work in education, we know these aren't just numbers. They reflect real challenges in real classrooms, and they show that our systems have been under immense pressure. At the same time, these numbers highlight the importance of getting policy implementation right, with a focus on what's best for students. This year's policy wins, like HB2's historic $8.5 billion investment in public education and new certification pathways under SB2 and HB 1178, demonstrate that our leaders in Texas are prioritizing education in necessary ways. These reforms will help us close the growing achievement gaps, enhance teacher pipelines and skill levels, and equip more students with the skills they need to pursue careers and enter the Texas workforce as competitive candidates. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Jason Sabo.
So, Deanna, thank you very much. My name is Jason Sabo. I live in Austin, Texas, and I've worked with children at risk for about 15 years. And again, I would appreciate to give my accolades to the organization for their work over the years on the ground in communities with local school districts, but also at the Texas Capitol, which we'll be talking about mostly today. As Deanna noted a minute ago, we all know that the legislative session just ended a few days ago. To say that it was historic for public education in Texas is probably an understatement, because in many ways, this session did set public education in a new direction, both in terms of funding and policy. So what I would like to really quickly kind of set the stage for are three things, as Deanna mentioned, that we'll be talking about today: funding, teacher certification, and changes to workforce policy. From a funding perspective, as Deanna mentioned a moment ago, there was a significant legislation that passed related to expanding funding for public schools to the point of $8.5 billion. That was House Bill 2. Simultaneously to the passage of that bill was the passage of SB2, which created for the first time in Texas a statewide education savings account, aka voucher program, which was funded to the tune of about $1 billion. So right there, you're looking at a $9.5 billion investment in students. We can have differing opinions on education savings accounts, vouchers, but the reality is that's now the law of the land and will be implemented across the state in the months to come. We know that within that House Bill 2, there is significant funding for school districts to do things like increase teacher pay, to do things like improve the quality of their special education programs, to do things like improve the quality of teacher instruction, teacher preparation. Also, we know that within that area of teacher certification, we're seeing many changes there, including within House Bill 2, a new requirement that you have to be certified in that core subject area to teach that subject area. So we know that within teacher preparation, teacher certification, there were a lot of changes that were included this session, and we'll have a chance to discuss those today. And finally, and something that we don't always necessarily think about when we talk about public education, is the idea of workforce preparation. This session, I think for the first time in many years, we did see a a confluence of interest. And I think that perhaps it's because there's concern about the economy or concern about labor market participation among young people. But the reality is that the legislature this session did prioritize workforce preparation, both within the public education system, but also, interestingly, within the workforce development system, the workforce development board system managed by the Texas Workforce Commission. So those two agencies are kind of working now concurrently and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prepare what are called opportunity youth between 16 and 24 who aren't in school, who aren't in the military, who aren't in job training, who may be off track. And this is a session we did a lot to get those folks back on track. Again, kudos to Children at Risk for pulling together this amazing summit today with these amazing speakers. And I'll turn it back to Deanna.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much for that introduction of the deep dive we're going to take. Now let's hear from Veronica Garcia on the implications this funding change will have on our public schools.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with y'all here today. I think, the headline for us here in the Houston region as it relates to HB2 is that next school year, Houston districts will receive over $307 million in new revenue across 11 school districts, averaging about $552 more per student next year. So this is significant. HB2 is directing funds towards high impact areas such as early education, teacher compensation and preparation, and post-secondary readiness. The bill is also targeting investments to help cover the costs of school safety, special education, and essential expenses like insurance. So by addressing these critical needs, HB2 is allowing districts greater flexibility to stabilize their budgets and invest in strategies that directly support student success. And of course, directly linked to student success are our teachers. And I would say that HB2 is definitely a win for our educators. There is a permanent pay increase that HB2 will provide for those experienced educators. So for those that are between 3 to 5 years of experience, they're going to see a pay bump of $2,500. For teachers with 5+ years of experience, they will have a pay increase of $5,000. Teachers will also now get free pre-K, so that is definitely a big win for them as well. The legislature focused on early education and improving the quality of early education. There is strong support for early literacy and math outcomes in HB2. We now are going to see the implementation of reading and math screeners in grades K through 3. This is critical. It's going to allow our teachers, parents, administration to really closely monitor student progress and provide timely evidence-based interventions for those at risk of falling behind. So this is groundbreaking for us here in Texas and critical to really addressing the needs of our youngest learners quickly. We're also going to see through HB2 that there's strengthening for teacher principals development by now requiring math achievement academies. We've had reading academies in the past, and so now we're also going to have math achievement academies. And there's the funding that is being provided for our teachers to participate in those. So not an unfunded mandate like we've seen in the past. Critical. And so with that, Deanna, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Well said, Veronica. Thank you so much. Next, we have Amanda Claire, who will highlight the upcoming changes in the teacher preparation, credentialing, and certification pathways across the state. Take it on, Amanda.
Good morning. So glad to be here this morning. I want to start off, I think we all can acknowledge that we are still experiencing significant gaps in filling the needs in our educator workforce. And so it's really exciting to see this legislative session did work hard to address some of these needs, as Jason mentioned earlier. HB2 will require that all core classroom teachers be certified by 2030, meaning every single child in public school will be in a classroom with a certified teacher. And this is huge. So we mentioned that 42,000 uncertified teachers in classrooms right now. It is equally encouraging, right, to see that HB2 will expand the educator pipeline by supporting alternative routes into teaching by providing financial and structural supports to make these pathways more accessible. And so while this is exciting news, it's also really important that we acknowledge there's still work to do. We need our institutions of higher ed and local partners to create additional alternative pathways for undergraduates to seek certifications, not just in the primary grades, but in the secondary classrooms as well. This opens doors for stronger partners and partnerships with vendors like TNT. We've been doing this work for nearly 30 years, and this is a huge opportunity for our districts to partner to support individuals in their certification journey, either in higher ed or outside of higher ed. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I said that this is enough. We have decades of research that tells us educators need ongoing support and professional learning to have the strongest impact on our kids. We can't let this work stop at the certification level. It must continue throughout a teacher's entire career to ultimately deliver the best outcomes for students.
Wow, well said, Amanda. We can't just get them the certification. We have to have ongoing support to ensure high quality teachers in every classroom across the state. With that in mind, we're going to turn our attention over to Dr. Adrian Bustillos to break down the expansion of workforce readiness emphasis and what the changes in legislation mean for our secondary students seeking career and technology education.
Super excited about the recent legislative session in Texas that has just demonstrated a strong commitment to strengthening our state's workforce through these additional funding and strategic alignment of our education and labor market demands. So these proactive measures through House Bill 120, House Bill 322, Senate Bill 856, and Senate Bill 1535, they really have a significant step forward in preparing our students for post-secondary opportunities, ensuring that we have in Texas a robust and competitive student workforce as they graduate here. I really want to point out with the demand and technology change in CTE, super excited about House Bill 322 that we're now able to use some of these JET dollars to use it for technology solutions to bring in demand virtual tools into the classroom. And so students, when they leave the buildings, they have the up-to-date technology and they're not learning from previous old tools that are maybe not relevant in the system today. Super excited about House Bill 120, enhancing college career military readiness. I think that's really one of the biggest impact as the bill focused on expanding various aspects of college and career military readiness. And PTECs, Pathways in Technology, Early College High Schools, Aldine does have several of these programs throughout our district and many across the state. So super excited that the funding is increasing from $50 to $150 per student enrolled. That really helps us keep the program rolling and take some costs off the districts. That's pretty significant. And also the dual credit courses at no cost that will continue to the Fast Swift program. I think that is a critical barrier so that students have to worry about funding or how they get that work done. And those that are in the rural areas, I think there's a great opportunity for them as a House Bill 120. But I do want to point out that the JROTC programming is now going to be funded under CTE. So super excited about that opportunity. It's one of those programs we've been funding throughout the district. So it's great to get some dollars to put back into there and help students get where they go. But really high school advisory programs out of House Bill 120 is one of the biggest things where students can learn more about the opportunities and features they have to present themselves. So actually funding that opportunity to ensure that we have enough individuals to do this work so we can clearly communicate the needs for students moving forward. So these are great impacts, but one of the biggest things or takeaways is to increase access to high demand training. You heard it, it's going to be for students. We're going to give it to the teachers through these bills as well. The credentials of valuing, like the importance of emphasizing earning industry-based certificates and then aligning it with dual credit to finish college degrees. So this will help our students in their Texas and local demand markets. Strategically, when we open CTE programs, we want to make sure they're not saturated markets, that they're in demand, high wage jobs. So now we actually have more tools and resources to do this. And one of the great things is building the partnerships with the industry partners. So creating a seamless pathway for students to have a K-12 experience, community college, dual credit experience, and then how does it go into the job market field is a one process. So imagine this, we have the talent pipeline that fields need. Partner with us today so we can create and cultivate the talent for you in a seamless transition. So super excited about that opportunity. So there's a lot of importance in workforce training in alignment with our labor market. So we want to keep pushing that forward and here. So those expanded career technology, I hope to see more CTE programs coming out of the school districts, enhanced dual credit opportunities for students as well. And I hope there will be an increase in industry-based certificates now that we have additional tools and fundings to provide the right resources moving forward. So grateful and excited about what's next to come from these opportunities. It is evident that there is a significant investment in Texas' future in the workforce. These bills really indicate that. And I just want to point out that as we move forward in this work, that there's necessary tools, technology, device, and training our students will receive that. And so the bills here in this session are really aimed to create more comprehensive and effective education workforce pipelines across the state. So super excited about that.
Wow, sounds like there's going to be a stronger bridge, right? That's really solid and gets kids ready to go and into the workforce. So we're meeting the needs of all of our students with broader funding opportunities in the CTE paths. Thank you so much, Dr. Bustillo. And next, let's hear from Carol Ann Moore to explore the implications of legislative wins in EC through 12 literacy, as well as some legislative wins for opportunity youth. Those are the youth that are between ages 16 to 24 that are neither in school nor working. So all over to you, Carol Ann.
There we go. So sorry. It's good to be with you guys this morning. This legislative session brought significant wins for early literacy and neurodivergent learners in Texas. As you know, literacy scores have remained stagnant for the over 20 years, so these changes will hopefully move the needle in a positive direction. Senate Bill 568 funds dyslexia training for educators, which addresses a gap where many may start training, but they can't complete dyslexia training or even go to the level of certification. And this is a big step toward consistent, high-quality instruction statewide. Training varies. We have some teachers who get 5 days, and we have some teachers who get 2 years. So this is going to really make this more equitable for everybody. And then House Bill 2310 calls for that statewide early learning strategy and new literacy screener legislation, requiring those screenings 3 times a year, just like Amanda mentioned. Currently, most students are likely to be identified with dyslexia in 4th and 5th grade. So hopefully this is going to move that needle earlier, because we know earlier intervention is the key. And then we've all talked about House Bill 2 and how groundbreaking this is in addressing educator quality and supporting teacher preparation and mentorship. It requires trained teachers in core subjects by 2030, reinforcing what we know well, and that is that the best prevention against reading failure is a knowledgeable and effective teacher who can be diagnostic and prescriptive in meeting their students' needs. As you know, there will always be barriers. There's often a disconnect between policy and practice with uneven and inconsistent implementation, staffing shortages, competing priorities. Recent reading scores demonstrate that literacy needs extend into middle and high school, but most secondary teachers don't have training in foundational reading instruction. And so districts are needing that kind of training. And hopefully this will set that apart and allow us to meet the needs of secondary students in addition to elementary. And then finally, for the opportunity youth between ages 16 and 24, House Bill 120 expands access to workforce programs. But many of these youth are reading below a 6th grade level, so we must raise awareness that literacy support is foundational, not optional. And that includes promoting age-appropriate adult literacy classes and then connecting families to resources like we provide at NIHouse and the Greater Houston Opportunity Youth Collaborative. So we at NIHouse are really excited to see what the future holds with regard to these changes and how they will impact literacy outcomes for students in Texas.
Thank you so much. Such an important issue, right? It's the foundation of all things, literacy for all ages, right? So thank you so much, Carol. Thank you for joining us to uplift this today. And finally, we're going to hear from Judith Cruz to wrap up today's conversation with the perspective of K-12 college and career readiness, continued advocacy needs, and a Spanish recap for the bilingual press covering today's conversation. Turning it over to you, Judith.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Thank you for having me. This legislative session has really opened up more doors for students to prepare for college and career. And currently, only 22% of students in Harris County earn some sort of credential within 6 years of graduation. So these investments are so critical. There will be increased funding for students with special needs that are better prepared for their futures, and schools that ensure that students are earning college credit while also participating in internships or other career exposure. There's increased funding for rural school districts to be able to partner together with other proximate rural districts to formally work with effectively providing college and career preparation for students. And there's also increased funding for high school students that want to be teachers. And we know how critical this is. We all know that there's a teacher shortage. So students that already know in high school if they want to be teachers, there's increased funds to help them prepare as they progress through that pathway. The second full week of October will now be a free college application week. Typically, each college application is about $75. So if you're applying to more than one college, those can add up very quickly. So I'm sure families will be very excited for this news. And the Texas Education Agency will also develop a standard method of computing students' high school GPAs if they're taking advanced courses. That has really varied by district and how that's computed. So this will equalize the playing field a little bit better. So you might be wondering, so how do you get involved after laws are passed? There's a rulemaking process where state agencies detail how these laws will be implemented. And so there's definitely opportunities to advocate through feedback processes. And if you're a parent or a student, ask your district what they're doing to implement these changes and how you can get access to these opportunities. And please reach out to us on ways to get involved. En esta sesión se han abierto muchas puertas para que más estudiantes se preparen para la universidad y o una carrera profesional. Ahorita solo 22% de los estudiantes en el condado de Harris obtienen algún tipo de credencial dentro de los 6 años posteriores de su graduación, por lo que estas inversiones son aún más fundamentales. Entonces, se han incrementado el financiamiento para que los estudiantes que son discapacitados, que están más preparados para su futuro, va a haber más fondos para eso. Y las escuelas que se aseguran que los estudiantes obtengan créditos universitarios, mientras también participan en diferentes experiencias de la exploración profesional. Entonces, va a haber más inversión para esto. Y también hay muchos distritos rurales en el estado de Texas y se les hace más difícil dar estos servicios. Entonces va a haber más inversión para que los distritos rurales y pequeños puedan trabajar juntos para que los estudiantes estén expuestos y tengan acceso a estas preparaciones para carrera y profesión. Y también los estudiantes que quieren ser maestros. Todos sabemos que hay escasez de maestros, necesitamos más maestros preparados. Entonces, los estudiantes que ya cuando están en preparatoria dicen, yo quiero ser maestro, va a haber mucho más apoyo para estos programas. Y no solo al comienzo, pero para que sigan en esa preparación hasta que terminen. Y además se designa ahora la segunda semana completa de octubre como la semana de solicitud universitaria gratuita. Y cada solicitud cuesta más o menos como $75, entonces esta es una gran ayuda para familias. Y entonces, ¿cómo puedes involucrarte? Tal vez estás pensando, pues todos estos cambios son excelentes, pero ¿ahora qué? Después que se aprueban las leyes, comienza un proceso de elaboración de normas en el que las agencias estatales detallan cómo se implementarán estas leyes. Durante este proceso hay oportunidades para participar y abogar mediante la presentación de comentarios y sugerencias. Y también si eres madre, padre o estudiante, pregunta a tu distrito escolar qué están haciendo para implementar estos cambios y cómo puedes acceder a estas oportunidades. Y por favor, comunícate con nosotros para saber cómo puedes participar. Aquí estamos para apoyar. Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias, Judith. I want to take a moment and thank all of our speakers for your insights, and thank you to everyone who joined us to listen in. What we heard today makes one thing clear. Texas has taken some meaningful steps to support schools, teachers, students, and their futures. But real change takes time and continued commitment. Every child and every student in our state deserves great teachers, strong academics, and real opportunities after high school. We know there's still more to do, and that's why this conversation isn't ending here. We invite you to stay with us as we begin our Children at Risk 2025 Virtual Education Summit, the Chutes and Ladders of Learning, in just a few minutes. Thank you again for being with us this morning. Let's keep the momentum going for children, for teachers, and the economic future of our state. Thank you all.